Greetings, this is Andrew Baker of Brainwave Consulting Company. Let's take some time and talk about maintenance. As a small business owner, maintenance is not something you want to have to deal with. There are a lot of tasks that just get left behind, and we don't pay any attention to them until we absolutely have to. There are a lot of things that people don't upgrade in their technology infrastructure or their security infrastructure till they positively have to do it. And they wait, they won't upgrade their firmware in their switches or their routers or their firewalls or their servers. If it weren't for Microsoft doing Patch Tuesday once a month, many people wouldn't even get to those. And we let these processes languish because we're too focused on other things. We're too busy, don't have time for that. But that course creates problems. And one of the problems it creates is that you get forced to deal with things if you wait until things break. Then they're not happening on a good schedule, right? If you try and tackle things on a periodic basis, it makes it easier. Additionally, besides just patches and some of those other kinds of things, you also want to do general maintenance. Let's take operating systems as an example, okay? You're content to run Windows 2008 R2 in 2020 because if it ain't broke, you're not going to fix it. The problem is it may be broke and you don't know because you're not paying attention to it. The bigger problem is if you take too long to deal with technology, to focus on it, to look at it, the move from where you are to where you need to be can be expensive and painful, right? Fine, you're running a small business, you don't have a lot of money, you don't have a lot of time, you're not going to jump every time a new version of Windows comes out or a new version of X software comes out. True, okay? But you also shouldn't wait till 7 versions of that software have come out before you start to look at, should I do something about this? Because inevitably, you'll find that the move from version 1 to version 8 is much, much, much harder than the move from 1 to 4, 1 to 3, 5 to 8, 5 to 7. Those moves are going to be easier than the move you're contemplating because those moves are reasonable. The vendor is going to expect to support 2 or 3 versions back, and they're going to expect to have a migration path for a 2 or 3 version difference, right? So they will say when you're on version 2, they'll make a path from 2 to 3. They'll make a path from 2 to 4. They might make a path from 2 to 5 if 2 is really popular and a lot of people were on it. They might not make one from 2 to 6. They might not make one from 2 to 7. They almost certainly will not make one from 2 to 8. And worse yet, all of the consultants and other support people and industry support would have moved along as well. So by the time version 8 and 9 are out and you're looking to move from version 2, there aren't people who really know that. The people who know version 2 still and that are active are people who only know version 2 and don't know the newer versions. And so you're going to find yourself in a place where you need to move. You're under the gun. There's security vulnerabilities. There are functional issues, and you need to move. But now this gap is huge. And it's fraught with peril because no one's tested that. You'll either have to make this big leap of faith or you'll have to go from 2 to 4 and 4 to 6 and then 6 to 8 to get there. So whatever you saved by sitting on 2 forever and a day, you're losing potentially, and almost certainly, in my experience, by having to make this huge jump under duress. Don't do it. Maintenance is something just like with your car. You know, if you only change your oil every 30,000 miles, your car might not make it much further than every 30,000 miles. You have to stay on top of that. You need to be conscientious about it. You need to pay attention to what's going on there, and you need to be prepared to move because it is part of good technology hygiene. You know, it's not just because people want money, and yes, vendors do want money. They need to support whatever it is they're producing, but it's also because it's hard to manage it. Don't expect the vendor in the year 2020 to be supporting something that they made in 2012. Not in the technology realm. That stuff is way old. It just is. And there were a lot of differences in what was available at that time and how the world looked. And so expecting them to manage that, it's not until much later in a product's life cycle when it becomes much more mature and the increases become much slower that you can get those long leaps. But good business sense says that you need to stay on top of maintenance, have your organization stay on top of maintenance, and don't let more than 2, 3, 4 years at most pass before you make a move to additional versions that are probably going to offer you a lot more in the way of performance and security. Not always, and that's why you need to evaluate it. But I assure you, it's much more painful when you wait long to deal with maintenance. It will bite you. Thank you for your time. Speak to you later.